First ever Stormgate show match. Mana, in a way, representing StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2. He started playing and competing in StarCraft at a very young age. And of course, Moon, the greatest Warcraft 3 player of all time. These two duking it out now in a game that takes the best of StarCraft and the best of Warcraft, puts it together. Let's find out who comes out on top, Artosis.
It's going to be an exciting one here. You know, Mana, a legend from StarCraft 2, and Moon being the greatest of all time from Warcraft 3. Can't really ask for a better match than this. It's going to be Infernals against Infernals. That bottom left purple Infernal is Moon, and the top right is Mana.
This is going to be such a crazy match here. This map, a very different one. They are both going to be going for fast expanding builds. There are creeps on this map. Some are in the middle, some are a little bit further out of the way. It is a very winding map in that there's a lot of different ways to counterattack and move around. So having map presence and map vision is going to be key.
Yeah, and already we see maybe a little bit of a difference between the two players. 2 Iron Vaults going down there for Moon. You know, right now, as far as Infernal versus Infernal, Fiends are very, very strong. And Gaunts, with that Infest ability to make more Fiends, is very, very strong. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see just a lot of Fiends battling on both sides.
There's one function we haven't really discussed yet. We didn't really have time in the last series because the game picked up so fast, but there is Animus that is collected over time when units are killed, and that is only for Infernals, but in an Infernal versus Infernal match, you're both going to be getting Animus. It would seem like whoever can pick up the most more quickly is going to have a lot of positional advantages here to try to activate a lot of those abilities you can use with that.
Yeah, and if you have a lot of Fiends dying all game and turning into Fiends for your opponent and things like this, you're going to get a lot of Animus. We might see those Shroud Stones really come into play as a huge focal point of power.
And it is possible if you get enough Animus to unlock a Dragon, which is an extremely powerful unit. We'll see if that comes into play here, but just keep that in the back of your minds. If this game does drag out, I would imagine that is going to be an inevitability.
If it drags out, it will drag on.
We've got the first resource camp going down over here. Mana clearing that, and we see mirrored behavior over here from Moon. And so nobody, I think in a mirror matchup like this, is really incentivized to try to come out and hiccup and interrupt the creeping on the other side of the map, because otherwise you're not going to be creeping on your own.
You're going to be playing with very similar unit sets here as well. And in fact, look at that surround. That is Moon for you right there. Instantly surrounding that Brute. Gets it to split, and of course, you know, those Fiends are going to have to back up. They can't do anything against that army.
Yeah, and in a mirror matchup like this, that's pretty huge. We've got Mana all the way down, out of position here, so Moon able to generate some threats. Is he going to commit? It does seem like with the 3 Brutes and 2 Fiends, you do get a perfect surround to try to come in there and crush.
And look at this, the 3 Brutes really diving far right now. The 2 Brutes up Mana trying to chase him down, splits the hurt one off into some Fiends, and he's going to go ahead and chase that, but that means the 2 Brutes in the main base could deal some extra damage.
Yeah, he wants to basically go for a worker harass here. He's going to dive in, and of course these Fiends are so nimble, they could just come through here and hit these workers. That's going to force Mana to then change his Brutes into Fiends here.
Yeah, a lot of Brutes, a lot of Fiends fighting right now. You can see just battling all over the place and splitting into those Fiends when they need to. The Fellhogs being pretty useful as well as a defensive deterrent.
A really crazy game to start this off. It looks like a lot of these imps are taking damage. Some are even getting killed off over here. And, you know, Moon, he was known to have by far the best micro on Warcraft 3, and we're kind of seeing that on display here in Stormgate. He was a guy who would pick fights that many other Warcraft 3 pros would never dare go into, and oftentimes come out on top.
Yeah, but, you know, he is fighting over here on his opponent's Shroud, which means we get that additional white health for Mana's unit. So even though he's keeping a lot of pressure on, I feel like he's not really making that much progress with these attacks.
Looks like we've got 2 more Brutes coming up here now. More pressure building over here on Mana's base.
Yeah, the Brutes coming up and the Fiends being pushed back a little bit. That meat farm having to walk around it right now. A Shroud Stone going down. So he is looking for a little bit more static defense. We're going to see if that works out for him as Moon just rallying brutes across the map non-stop here.
Artosis has got to be his game. You know that. I can't explain it. He's coming through and doing so much damage. I don't really, I didn't expect any games to possibly be, snowballing this quickly, but Moon is doing so much damage here. It seems like he's just able to eke out enough by, knowing exactly when to split his brutes into the two fiends, microing back perfectly. The pressure is really on here for Mana.
And denying those Shroud Stones is huge. They deal a lot of damage. They're great static defense, and you can start casting spells because we have a ton of Animus already in play here.
That's right. It's really building up because this game has been such a bloodbath. It looks like for the time being, Mana may be able to force us back. The question is, as more and more brutes come in, can Moon keep the pressure on?
Well, he's certainly trying to. The Fiend's getting cleaned up in that main base. Looks like he turns around for now. He has some very damaged brutes right there. And yeah, let's take a look at what else is going on this map. Do we have additional expansions? Do we have some additional tech? It really looks like it's mostly that production of the brutes and maybe a little bit of expanding going on as well there for Moon.
Yeah, this is looking pretty good for Moon with that base down there at 6 o'clock. Can we get a check over at the far center right? Is there actually a base over there?
Yeah, I think Mana is expanding to the right side of the map right now as well.
There we go. Okay, I wanted to confirm how much is there. Only 3 workers there mining for now. Yeah. I think there's a little bit more there for Mana at 6 o'clock.
You'll have to build that up a little bit. You see he has put down the meat farm there to try to defend a little bit of Shroud Stone as well. That base is kind of far away from everything else, so I like the fact that he's putting down some static defense to just dissuade Moon from harassing that base with his Fiends.
Moon with some pretty good roaming is continuing to creep up on the map here, using these Fiends to basically stalk the brutes. Are we going to have another engage here? Moon with a very injured brute. It seems like Mana has a little bit more HP, even some white health there on top of those units. So Moon instead just going to continue to ignore this move to the south. He wants to try to get that, but a good move there by Moon. He actually gets his own Fiends out.
That's right. Very, very nice. And in fact, the Fiends, he's body blocking so well. You can see those Warcraft 3 World Championship skills for Moon there as he gets additional damage onto Mana's brutes, but eventually they do part ways.
That's right. Moon's going to loop around over here. He could hit this base. It seems to be fairly undefended. You know, brutes, as they move on the map, they're not that fast. So if you get out of position and your opponent is going to be hammering one of your bases, you can see with Fiends doing so much more damage, Moon is going to come in here and try to take this out as quickly as possible. He is targeting down the Shrine. Is he going to get it in time?
Oh my gosh, I think he is. That is some great killer instinct coming out of Moon. So the Shrine goes down. That's going to be one less base. Tries to get in with the Magmadon, actually stopping his Fiends, and only a few will escape. So he definitely traded a lot of units there. But to kill off a base of Mana, it feels like it was worth it.
I think it was definitely worth it. You got to remember that unless you're going to commit with Fiends of your own, which I guess he is, by the way, you don't have a lot of counterattacking opportunities. It's interesting, in an RTS game, you know, when do you want to target down a building and all in on that versus when do you want to trade out in a fight? It's cool to see Moon in that moment. He decides, no, you want to go for the Shrine first.
Yeah, now, I find this kind of interesting. Tell me what you think, Tasteless, but the Magmadon's coming out here for Mana's side. Obviously they don't have a lot to do with Fiends. They do have that stun, which is nice, but when you're building them, you're not building brutes.
Right. And we're going to see what role that's going to play as eventually these two armies are going to collide. Mana in a game of catch-up here. I liked earlier on, we saw his Magmadon tear through the trees to try to get a nice pathway there from the main base to the third base. But this entire game, thematically, it's really been Moon on the offense. Mana's never really had a real opportunity to do any damage, to interfere in any way on Moon's side of the map. And, you know, it can be misleading when you see one player constantly defending and surviving attacks, where in reality, Moon is just outgrowing him in every possible conceivable metric.
It really does seem that way. And now he even has a lot of gaunts with his army, which means Moon is going to be able to go ahead and infest some of these units, which, of course, when they die, you're going to get more Fiends. And this is that kind of snowballing effect that we've been talking about. That's kind of what you're aiming for with these mass Fiend plays.
The game quiets down for a little bit here as we're seeing Moon really gather up a pretty insanely powerful army. He is going to be moving out. It looks like he's going to be tearing through the center of the map. There is going to be an expand over here. I don't think the Fiend is going to be able to deny that in time. Oh, in fact, it is. Meanwhile, it looks like we have an ambush over here. Is he going to try to plow into this? He is!
Oh, that's a lot of Magmadons right there. Fiends coming up to help out as well. The Brutes of Mana come from the north. and you can see some great Micro right now. He's utilizing those Gaunts up at the top of the battle, trying to get those additional kills, trying to get those additional Fiends, and it looks like he's going to start to run Mana over, who has to retreat.
And you can see that the chain stunning there from the Magmadons is really working out very nicely. He's chasing him all the way back to where we saw the action start at the beginning of this game. The question now is he going to try to press it and do more damage? Looks like he's going to go for the Shrine.
Yeah, he's coming up right now, trying to get something done here, splitting off into more and more Fiends at the moment. This is just huge here from Moon.
It's a lot of pressure here from Mana, and I don't know that he can stop either this push over here at the front, but more importantly, all of these Fiends taking out his workers back here.
This is a big problem. This Shrine going to end up falling. Moon in complete control of this game. Yeah. And there you have it.
Incredible game there. Wow. That was something else, Artosis. It's crazy to see, you know, what an action-packed game that was from start to finish. Well, we're going to be going into game 2 in a second here. It was interesting to see that map play out. You know, the fast expanding plays, the development, how everything went down. But we're going to be going into that next map in a second here. It is, I think, loser picks. Is that correct, Artosis?
Yes, that is correct. So, yeah, Moon taking down that first game. And, well, we'll see what Mana has to try to come back.
Yeah. Now, Moon really hindered Mana early on. I think there were some moments where maybe Mana could have come back, but after getting crippled early on, we then saw Moon be very decisive. He saw that third base. He knew he could come in there and crush that. It seems like currently the way that this mirror matchup is operating, if you're able to dive in and really commit and do damage, it's hard to have a counterattack with the fact that Brutes are so slow. And, of course, Fiends are impermanent if they're not on their own shroud there. So really interesting to see the meta kind of develop.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more interesting things. It's like, okay, well, these are really fast. They're good at dealing damage. But when they're out on the other side of the map, there's a clock on them.
Right.
So if you make that hard decision to make your Brutes into Fiends, well, you got to make it work for you. And Moon definitely did that game.
So we're just waiting to go into game 2 right now. It is a best of 3, just to remind everybody. Fingers crossed that Mana can win one. I think it was an interesting close match there. It's just Moon knows how to accumulate that lead over time. But whoever comes out here on top and wins this either 2-0 from Moon or a comeback here from Mana 2-1 will be the first ever champion of Stormgate competitive match.
I know. That's a big one. It really is. And to see that beautiful trophy of a Vulcan. Okay, so we actually just got an update, guys. It turns out that they mislabeled the colors on the overlay there. And actually, that was Mana. Every time we said Moon, that was Mana. Every time we said Mana, that was Moon.
Oh, that makes sense, because we saw the GG first on one side. So everything that you saw back there, flip the player. So that was right. Mana that came in there with the pressure onto Moon, did the damage. That was Mana that came in, did the Fiends, and hit the third base. So a little bit of a mistake there on our overlay. But once you understand, you just reverse the players. Now you know what happened. Okay, so this is crazy. Let's update this. Mana up 1-0.
That's right.
Yes.
Moon really having a bit of a hard time with Mana. It felt like Mana really had a great idea of what he was trying to do throughout that game. I do know he's played a little bit more than Moon, but, you know, Moon's still looking very strong.
Yeah, Moon looking very good back there. But, you know, just like we saw with Mana versus TLO, able to kind of lean onto the opponent. It seems like if you're able to kind of build that pressure and do that damage, it really does build up over time. So what would Moon want to do here for maps? We already saw some interesting games here with Jagged Maw, you know, with the catapult pushes and how that panned out. We do still have one more map remaining here. Let me check my notes. Is that...
Yeah, Titan's Causeway, I don't believe we played
That's
yet.
right, Titan's Causeway. That's an interesting map in that it's a little bit tricky to get a natural, you know, I should say a second base, up and running more easily because it's such a wide area to defend. But so far in the 3 games of Stormgate that we've had here today, it's been a lot of fast expand plays.
Yeah, that does seem to be the case. You know, it feels like early rushes, it's a little bit hard to really make them pay off enough compared to getting that expansion up, getting a slightly stronger army, and then going across for an attack.
All right, well, we're still waiting to see what game or what map, excuse me, it's going to be. It is packed down here at DreamHack. What's up, everybody? It's so exciting to be part of a new RTS developed and supported here by the OGs. You know, RTS, it's a genre that really ages like a fine wine. The more we know about it, the more we learn, the more there is that you can do. And we're ready now to go into game 2 here. Right now, Mana up 1-0.
All right. So this game, making extra sure that we have this on the right side, the purple player in the bottom left, that's going to be Moon. Nope, that's going to be Mana.
That's going to be Mana. All right. We're safe. It's good we're getting this sorted out at the start.
You know, I'm always saying that's the hardest thing about RTS is having that overlay correct.
And in the top right, over here, hoping to win this and come back 2-0 here for all the Warcraft 3 fans out there, it is Moon. Okay. So, we had fast expands in Game 1 in the first mirror matchup ever in Stormgate in this show match. We're going to have the same thing again going here into Game 2.
Yeah, these very fast expansions. No real way to harass it too much. You know, we saw in the previous match against TLO, because the Vanguards start with a scout unit, they can go across the map, they can deal some damage.
Right.
Here, that's not the same case with the Infernal, right? So you can just kind of expand right away, get into your production facilities afterwards, and just macro up really heavily.
One of my favorite things about learning an RTS is seeing where the top players who are really steering our knowledge of the game, where they place the first few buildings. It seems like in the bottom left here, we've got Mana, just like he did in Game 1, with somewhat of a wall. He's creating more of a bottleneck entry point here. When we look at Moon and where his structures are, it does seem to be a little bit more spaced out.
Yeah, it does. I do wonder kind of like why he's doing that, what his thought process is for those buildings. It feels like Mana's might be a little bit better for blocking things, but they're doing basically the same thing here, right? They're going ahead and getting 3 Iron Vaults each after that fast expansion. A lot of Brutes going to come out. Maybe you can go ahead and, clear some of those small creep camps and then start the attack and get those Fiends out there. See if you can deal some damage and slow your opponent down.
So whenever I see a mirror matchup, I'm always looking for where the deviation in the builds are. Sometimes you'll see both players behaving in the exact same way, but where is that fork in the road going to be? And will it start with the creeping or will it start with the tech?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. Now, 3 Brutes coming out from the side of Moon. Looks like he wants to go ahead, clear some of the camps here. And this is Secluded Grove, by the way. I'm not sure if we were talking about that too much earlier. Obviously, the last game had a lot of action, a lot of attacking nonstop there from Mana. But I wonder if this map could slow it down a little bit. Those central bases are so strong.
Absolutely. We got the Brutes now roaming. Nobody committing to the other side of the map just yet. And it looks like Moon going to go here for the health camp. Now, when you kill this, you then are able to start to regen health. You have to occupy this area for now in order to get that full effect of the region. It doesn't carry on with you. And we have, I believe that's an Imp headed up here, northbound.
Yeah, it looks like we're probably going to get another expansion going down here for Mana, really focusing on getting those bases up as quickly as possible. Wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar from Moon as well.
Now, we've got the first attack coming in up here. Some real pressure over here onto Moon's Shrine. Is there going to be any way to defend? Where's the rest of his armies? Beautiful surround over there. Really nicely done by Mana. Oh my god, this is kind of a base trade situation, Artosis. They're both just going to be going at each other.
Yeah, it does look that way. Now, we have a lot of Imps coming down to try to help to hold this on. In the meantime, this counterattack from Moon coming in. It's a little bit later, so it feels like Mana has the advantage.
Yeah, well, he's certainly going to have, the lead as far as the damage coming out, and that means that you're going to be able to deny the workers from mining earlier, which means you can slow them down. There's no way to warp back at home right now here for Moon, so, this could spiral out of control, but let's find out.
Well, it's a real possibility. He is eventually getting rid of these Brutes. You can see that Moon is actually doing a reasonable job over here as well. He will micro back a little bit, a couple more Brutes coming out, and of course with those Fiends, there's no real chance for his Brutes to do much more.
Yeah, the Fiend's now going to try to come in here from Mana just to try to slow down any mining here from Moon. We've got the Hellhogs coming out here, but they're not going to last that long.
Yeah, definitely helpful as far as defense goes, adding into that defender's advantage that's so important in RTS games. But at the end of the day, it feels like both sides end up holding reasonably well.
The third base is being taken here, as we're seeing Mana, as far as growth goes, shoot up to the north on his side of the map. We need to see how Moon can possibly try to come back and balance this out. And look at the denial here. Great instinct. He's going to get the imp, but more importantly, deny the third base. And if you're getting that many more resources over time from that third base, it's undeniable that there's not a lot that Moon's going to be able to do to recover that. So Mana with some really good control play, but look at this counterattack here from Moon.
Oh, man. Very, very nice. We dropped down to just 5 workers on the Luminite in that base for Mana. So a little bit of a problem. Definitely needs to get more imps out to get that economy back online.
So the Vision Camp now going to be hit over here by Moon. Just doing whatever he can on that side of the map to, stay active. And when you're denying that vision, it's going to make things more ambiguous there from the perspective, of Mana.
Yeah, he's going to come back and try to battle against that as well here, taking as much damage against him as he can here. But the Fiend's going to get surrounded as well. So you do see some of these small skirmishes where Moon's micro is paying off.
It really is a balancing act here for Infernal of when do you want to commit to an area, give the Brute up, to have the Fiend there temporarily do more damage, control an area, versus hanging on to the Brutes for a longer period of time and then using that to have more explosive power at a moment that might swing the game.
Yeah, and one thing I find interesting as well is the expansion timing, right? We've seen Moon trying a couple times but getting denied because Mana is keeping so much aggression on. But Mana's actually the one that's been expanding a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and, with the third base coming down now for Moon, this seems like a really ample opportunity here for Mana to come in. He's got his Brutes. He's got his Gaunts. We've got Moon coming up here to try to meet and defend this. There's no Shroud here, so there's no defender's advantage. Mana going to fraction some of those Fiends off to try to body block these Brutes.
Oh, look at that. He's trying to back up with the Brutes. Let's see if he actually has enough here. I think the Gaunts making a huge difference. Oh, man, a gigantic Infest does end up going down there. But it feels like Moon doesn't have enough units.
Yeah, he's zoned out. And now he's going to start to lose this position. We're going to see the farm go down. And look, with no third base in the picture, what exactly can Moon do? Now, the Theorem mining area here, he can come in here and deny that. He doesn't have to commit in here if he doesn't want to, but he's buying more and more of a lead.
And with that third base up and mining, this feels like it's going to be really hard for Moon to come back. He's playing with basically the same units. Comes forward right now. His Shroud Stone taking huge amounts of damage. The Shroud Stone will be picked off, so less Static D available for Moon at his base.
Yeah, Moon really in a lot of trouble here. The question is Mana perhaps overcommitting? That's one way that Moon can end up coming back into this. It seems like he's doing a pretty decent job, but as more Fiends come in here and begin to hit these Brutes, we're going to see Moon wrap back around. If Moon can't do much more over here, and in fact, with this Infest, this is looking really bad right now for Moon.
Yeah, the Gaunts adding a lot in here as well. Looks like a meat farm might end up falling here. Continues to attack forward, and look at that macro coming out. Just a huge amount of imps coming from Moon up trying to help this base out.
Yeah, and with these imps can't mine, there's just not a whole lot else that can be done. We have another Infest coming down here right now. The worker's going to be pulled away once more. It looks like what was once a Wallen that would have helped to defend is now boxing these units in. They can't get out.
Yeah, he does get a Magmadon out, a stronger, more sturdy unit capable of stunning everything, but doesn't feel like that's enough. He needs more damage output here against the masked Fiends that Mana has sent to him.
Yeah, and now this is becoming a bit of an execution over here, trying to get these workers somewhere safe as these Fiends just come in here and chase them down. The Shrine, the Greater Shrine is about to be taken out. It's so low, sub 100 HP, and it will go down.
Mana getting a smile on his face. He knows this game is all but over right now. Moon struggling, trying to come back, but the Gaunts are looking really strong. Those ranged attacks, hard to really micro against here for Moon with less units.
And we're seeing Mana's units spill into the main. The only thing that remains now is the infrastructure, the source that's producing these Magmadons, these Brutes, and it looks like they're going to be falling as well.
Yeah, down goes that Magmadon. We have more and more Fiends continuing to join the battle onto Mana's side. And now the last imps are going to have to fight here as well. Mana seconds from victory. There it is. GG.
Mana going undefeated. Make some noise. He is the Stormgate victor here in the first ever show match at DreamHack Atlanta.